Alrighty. What's going on, Dave? I just sent you that long video. Hopefully that answers all the questions. What's going on? Hopefully we can be green on Monday. We'll see. We'll see. They said they got meetings. Ugh. If so, there's a few things I think I would have done on Friday. I kind of was, my wife was off. I wasn't paying attention too much. Ugh. Anyway. Um, and it's tough. It's really tough because, um, SoFi, I think, is one of them. It's got earnings. I hate doing covered calls on earnings, but I feel like I still wouldn't have done it. Hims could have been one. I have a hard time with those companies really wanting to place covered calls on them. Ugh. But I don't know. I think it'll work out. I think it'll be okay. Let me pull up. I'm also looking. There might be a different flow bot we're gonna switch to. I'm trying to. There's another one company that wants to talk with us, so I'm trying to give them the benefit of the doubt. Um, I've used them in the past. Wasn't a huge fan, but they said they've changed a lot of things. And then I heard some news on like the one we're currently using, and apparently he didn't really treat somebody I know with a great deal of respect, and was kind of rude. So I don't really want to support that, but obviously, if the product is better, then the product is better. So that's what I'm trying to determine. Either way, we'll still have the same data coming through. Um, so Dave, as far as in the video, I can just go over because I know you're probably not going to watch that right this second. So as far as Microsoft goes, I know you have the access to these charts and everything. Um, you could always look at the 2 hour if you're questioning getting out of anything, because the 2 hour will be a little bit more responsive than the daily or the weekly when you're worried about, those options you're looking at. Just for future, can't fix what you've already done. Same thing. I think about my SMR play on Friday. Okay. Um, you can switch to the 2 hour. Okay. Um, in the 2 hour, right, we don't have any sell diamonds or trim diamonds. Now we can see the volume is slowly going down, right? But this was on Wednesday. Yeah. Switch to the 2 hour. Don't go, I mean, you can go lower, but the color coding won't be there. The color coding's really for the 2 hour, daily, weekly. I think the 4 hour, nope, 2 hour. So, and you can always, like, the diamond you can always look at like your momentum elite indicator. Oh yeah, I could. Yeah, I definitely can do that. My bad. I was showing you everything and nothing at the same time. Alrighty. So here's your 2 hour on this is Hims. Let me go to Microsoft. Okay. So this was Wednesday, April 8th, right? Not then. We're talking about when you start feeling like you should sell it, not just saying follow the 2 hour, right? You saw that it came up and you're like thinking on Wednesday, right here, you know, you should sell. But we didn't get any sort of curling happening, and now we started getting curling happening. Now you can start thinking I should start looking to take wins, and maybe that was Thursday, not Friday, but right, that's all you can look into going 2 hour and just kind of looking at these indicators a little bit more and seeing how things are shaping out. If you don't see any sort of curling of any sort, then no need. Until you kind of get some curling and this starts really decreasing, then you can start thinking about the 2 hour trim, because the daily will look like plenty of upside. But inside of this is, there's more action happening in every candle. 2 hour lets you kind of time it a little bit better. Same thing with Palantir. Okay. Just starting to get some sort of curling happening and a decrease in volume. So like Friday would have been the day I would have been like, yeah, you could probably start thinking about it. Wednesday right here, right? Still increasing in volume. Haven't seen a decrease as far as momentum comes until here, till Thursday. Does that make sense, Dave? I don't really use the 2 hour until I really feel like I should be looking to get out or be buying. Like I'm like, okay, the daily looks really good. Let me zoom in just a little bit to see if I can confirm the daily, you know, buy. What's going on, Pat? Good morning. And quick answer to good morning, Pat. Dave, um, how I got my account to where it is, I will say the most successful trades were my buy and holds with a few covered calls along the way. Mm. Profits are never mistakes. It's just I mean, what happens if you're never going to time the top, Dave? We got to get that mindset. We can never time the top. Um, so what happens next week if we're all red and then it comes back lower than Wednesday? Then were you right? Or are you just slightly early? Some of those trades I did not have back then. When I had my ASTS and Rocket Lab wins, I had the indicator then. So I think there's a video about my Rocket Lab sale and why I did it. Again, I didn't time the top. I got definitely a good chunk of it. ASTS. So I bought this one, okay, and I didn't sell these ones. I believed in it, so I thought we were going to go a little higher. And again, I didn't have the full strategy down completely. Well, this was back in 2025. Not this is I listened to these ones. Okay. So, and I bought some of this. I sold covered calls here. I made all the premium, so this was about 10 or 15 grand in premium on this play. Okay, and then I bought a little more here using that premium I collected. So I collected the 10 grand, used the 10 grand to buy a little bit more premium or buy more shares here. And then when we got up here, I sold at like 117 and the bulk of all of this action right here. And then I sold completely out. So up to you if you want to sell covered calls because you believe in the company long term. For me, like SoFi, like I'm more doing covered calls when we get to these overvalued more than I am doing selling. I really started. I just made a video. I'm gonna wait to hear what Dave asked me questions. So I sent Dave a video answering some questions about it. I'll wait to see what he says about the video before I share it with everybody because I was more just directing his questions. But if he thinks it's a good video, I'll share it with other people as well. But I can answer the question, Pat. Is that my journey started in 2021? Okay. And it didn't start with the traditional stock market. I before 2021, I had the 401k going. I was working. I was just putting money away, and during that time, I was saving 50% of my income every month into just a savings account. And then I took that money I saved, 60 grand, and I put that money into a home that I bought in 2021. Okay. That's how I initially started my whole investing journey. Um, what people do. Oh, so 2021, I bought a house. 2023, 2024, I sold the house for a profit, made money, and I doubled my money in 3 years. Oh yeah, well, it's what people do. Um, but people have a hard time, and my family does it. Sorry if they see this, but um, they live beyond their means. They think that the world, they deserve things. They think that the world should work out for them because they work a job and they deserve things that they don't. You don't deserve things. You earn things. You work for them, and then you get them yourself. So nothing is owed to you in this world. Right, and a lot of people have that mindset. So, me and my wife early on, while we are in California, we're making sure that we lived within our means and that we saved about 50% or more of our paycheck every month, put it away. And then we bought the house, sold the house, and I took all the money we made and everything in the house, so the whole 120,000, and I started my true investing journey. That's when I really dove into investing. I always like dabbled, but nothing like now. So that was 2024. So I'm truly 2 years heavy into burying myself in information and knowledge and figuring out how to do things. So, and I started really with a $5,000 Robinhood account. As far as when I was learning everything, um, I said basically, here's $5,000 for me to learn. Here's my tuition, right? I need to figure out how to make money with my money because um, sitting in a savings account doesn't work. It's not going to get me to where I want to be fast enough. Um, so I dove in, had a test account. I didn't do paper account. I was willing to test real money because I know that if it's real money, I'll actually focus on it. Paper money, people will log in, they'll forget about it, don't care about it. If it's real money, they'll actually focus. And I watched endless amounts of content. Some videos were 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hour videos, and I watched them multiple times to just pretty much bury it in my brain. And then in my test account, I'd buy one contract, right? A cheap company, SoundHound, SoFi at the time, Navitas, right? These cheap, inexpensive companies that I like, that I'm like, okay, let me do one contract, right? Let me just do one contract, test it out, see how it works. I understand that the wheel strategy wasn't going to like lose all my money. So I was like, okay, as long as I like the company, it'll be okay. So I can learn it and see how it goes. So, um, so I would say I started with 60, and then when I really started diving in, it was 120, and yeah, onward. So it wasn't so much I quit my job for this. Um, so crazy story, and we can get into other stuff as well, but my um, wife is very supportive because I like to jump around. I usually have, and it's because of my family. Okay, both my families love them, but both on their third marriages. Okay, lots of houses, jumping around. I probably moved in 20 different homes, um, and multiple states. Colorado, went to school in Colorado, lived in Colorado. We got California, three different sides of California: San Diego, Santa Barbara, and then Napa Valley, Santa Rosa, and then Michigan. And then most recently, we went to Georgia. When we sold the house in Michigan, we moved to Georgia. This is the house that started my investing. Moved to Georgia for work. Okay. I moved there for work. I had a sales job lined up for a car dealership as the sales manager there. And they promised me things which they owned up to in the first round, and then as time went on, the owner was really restricting me from making any additional money. Um, his company was falling apart. I was there to try to help. In order for me to help, I need to make moves. Those moves he wouldn't allow me to do to get the company back on track. Therefore, it hindered me to get everything back on track and for me to make money in the future, right? During the 1 year guaranteed get my company fixed, Okay, I'll get your company fixed in 1 year, but he hindered that. Therefore, by the time the 1 year was coming up, we weren't on pace to kind of start fresh where I can really make my commission and make more than what my guaranteed money was. So I asked for an extension of my guarantee with a slight increase now that you can see things are going to play out correctly. And they're like, we'll take care of you, but we're not going to put it in writing. I'm like, well, then no. So long story short, that relationship ended. We moved to Georgia for them. Right, we sold our house and moved there, and then in less than a year, I was done working for them. Well, I didn't want to really start another job in Georgia because our goal was to move back to Michigan once our lease was up. So I dove into trading a little bit more, figured out how can I make passive income monthly while still growing the account, not giving up everything. And that's what really started the journey. It wasn't that I quit my job specifically to do this. It was like, hey, that didn't work out. We'll figure it out. Let me see what I can do. And then I just dove in. Yep. Very facts. Yeah. I got a lot of family that thinks that they deserve everything and they've worked hard, so they should earn it, but yet they just keep putting themselves in more and more debt for things. And I'm like, that's not how things work. But they don't want to listen. I got family that is 30s and 40s and have no retirement accounts and nothing in a savings account. So they don't want to listen. I sold cars, car dealership world, was a sales manager in the dealership world. And guess what? They don't call me when they want to figure out buying a car. They just make moves, do things. And then they go, hey, Colby, I'm buried in my car. I'm 15,000 upside down. What do I do? I'm like, you should have talked to me the first time. So, yep. You just can't help them. If they don't want help, we can't help them. So, alrighty. Well, that's how I got here. That's how I got my journey started. My big wins, I don't do a lot of options with risk, okay? If you do see me do one, it's a couple $100. I'm willing to play. Kind of like the hymns one, right? I did one that's like hymns. I'm risking like $400 to make potentially like 12 grand, right? That I'm willing to do. I understand I can lose $400, but the upside, and there's plenty of time for things to happen. Cool. If I do anything like lotto, again, it's $100 here. I can make, $1,000, $1,200. Ending next month, job market is not good. Yeah, so Pat, definitely the wheel strategy for sure is going to be a huge part of kind of adjusting that income. I currently work a part-time job that just had my wages cut, unfortunately. So I was working that part-time job just enough to cover my rent. That way I didn't have like the biggest expense every month coming out of investing. I could make sure that part-time job covered the bill, and then my investing covered all the small bills. They stack up to a lot, but overall small bills. Unfortunately, wages got cut, so now I'm trying to figure out whether or not that job is even worth the time I currently have based on the new pay. So I got to figure that out. But what I would say is that I found this strategy works the best, the highest win rate. I realized that compounding, I mean, you guys have all seen, I'm sure, dividend calculators and how fast they compound, right? After 10 years. Well, if every month we are generating our own dividend, which is the premium we collect, right? Think about this, okay? A dividend growth ETF, SCHD, climbs 10%, we'll say it's more like probably 8%. 8% in share price growth, but 3% a year in dividend payouts. So 11% per year. If you buy that and compound it over time, blah, 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 it turns into a lot of money. Okay. Let's just take that, but make it our own, right? And let's get on like a stock 25% in 30 days and let's get a 5% yield in premium and treat your premium like a dividend. Okay. Well, if SCHD can make me a millionaire in 10, 20, 30 years, but I can do 5 times what SCH does by just doing the wheel strategy and just following the rules, I can cut that time down significantly, right? So treat the premium like a dividend and just realize that the compounding of an ETF can be really fast and can grow really fast. But if you can do it with an individual stock and not try to think everything that you own is going to the moon, okay? If you take the mindset everything is going to moon, because guess what? It's not. Every stock you pick is not a moon stock, okay? It's not going to go up like crazy, super fast. Um, um, you're asking me why I buy and hold, or you're talking about you're just saying in general? Yeah, because I think yeah, general. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I go into the mindset of I would be okay again when I talk about a stock I want. I think about, okay, this is a company I could buy and hold. If a scenario came up where, I don't know, I got drafted and all of a sudden I had to go into the military, I could leave these companies in my portfolio, buy and hold them for the 10 years or whatever, right? Like, that's what I want to go into the mindset when I'm investing into a company, because I want to know worst case scenario, things, the world goes to shit and we got to hold these companies for a couple years, right? Worst case scenario, just got to hold these, right? I'm okay with that with these companies. Now, the dividend, if they don't, growth companies don't pay dividend like you just said, but the wheel strategy generates that dividend for you to buy more of that company, so you can just self-feed the monster yourself and generate plenty. So that's all we're doing. We're just kind of creating a dividend growth company that can generate as we please. And if you stop getting so caught up, and this is my mistake on SMR, was I had a little FOMO moment and I'm upset with myself about it and realized what I did, and I should have just looked away is what I really should have done. Should have been like, stop staring at it. It'll be okay. A win's a win, right? I tell myself this. And again, I'm a human. I'm going to mess up. And I might not have messed up. We don't know yet, right? We don't know until 30 days from now what if I messed up. But I think SMR, if we get green on Monday, okay, if we are green, because I keep seeing talks, and this is the thing with the news, and it's just there's such mixed signals. So we'll just play the start charts like they say. But if we go to SMR, which great buy, not upset about a buy. Okay. You can obviously this downtrend, and we're breaking out of this downtrend. Could we come back? Yes. This is the part where I was saying I should have. I kind of fast reacted. It's okay. It was a very small loss. The CSP premium covers that covered call loss anyway, so the whole trade will not be a loss. It's a winning trade. But I like stacking these 90% win plays. And setting ourselves up to make 20% in a month and continuously stack 20% consistently. If you can just consistently stack wins, your portfolio grows. No, there's nothing wrong with it, Pat. There's nothing wrong with that. The reason, I guess, would be the potential of just missing out on more upside. So to not miss out on that upside, what you would do, for example, SoFi, right? I did clearly at the money, above the money, whatever you want. The stock was 17s, 16s, and I was still setting 18s and 17s, and the stock was down at 15s, and I still didn't get 17 or 18s assigned. I ended up just buying some stock because I still collected all that premium, right? So me just outright buying the shares is fine because I outright bought them and I collected all that premium. So it still lowers the cost average if you use our wheel tracker, right? You still technically lowered your cost average on SoFi. It's just not playing out the same way you thought it was going to play out, where you actually just got assigned the shares. But what you can do is if you set a CSP, right, and you got $500 in premium, you can take that $500 and then use it right away to buy whatever stock. So if I got $500 worth of SoFi premium and a CSP, I just buy $500 worth of SoFi. So that way, if I don't get assigned my CSP because the stock decided to run, that $500 of premium just turned into more because it went on the ride that you weren't able to capture. Does that make sense? It's really just putting your premium right to work. Sounds good, Dave. Appreciate it. Yeah, so you can just do CSP, take your premium, buy the stock with it, and then if you don't get the shares, no worries. You own some because you got premium to ride the wave. Or you got assigned and now you own even more because you use the premium, so forth. So, yeah. Pat, you're actually the only one in here. I know it's Sunday. It's probably a beautiful day for most places like Michigan right now. It is. So I can answer whatever questions you have. If you want to go over anything specific, strategy-wise, happy to go over it. Certain stock, kind of take advantage, I guess, of this. If you have questions about the flows or anything like that. Let's see. Let's see you typing. Yep, Oscar. For covered calls, CSPs, what are you thinking? Not ready. Not ready. I have currently covered calls on it for 17. I think you're going to get your pullback here, and you will get to do it. And I'll pull up the Bollinger Bands. Yeah. So I'd be looking for a pullback to 13. I think there's actually a gap fill right there. Yep. Gap fill. 1330. So you're going to be looking for anything 14 or less. As soon as you get to 14, basically you're going to look for a CSP, and you can do one pretty much at 13. Because I think we're just going to fill this gap, and then we're actually going to go higher. So you can do at the money if you want 14 or 13 to be safe. And you can do like May 15th. That's what I see. Yeah, I think it just really depends on this whole like mixed news that we're getting on it. So a lot of companies have gap fills. I'd be looking for gap fills next week to add to any positions you like, don't like, to kind of make some moves. I think SoFi was the one I was like, I'm trying to also. We'll see. They said now talks are back on Monday. So now I have no clue. Let me pull up my X real quick. Let's see. To notification. Appreciate it. All right. Let's see here. I saw something about I decided to fire bullets yesterday into the straight, blah, blah. I mean, I think it opens red, but I don't think it's going, like, whatever it is, by the way, I'm going to ignore it. Okay. Have CSP SoFi 1950 next week. Oh, cover call. Okay, yeah. Good play. 1950, you should be fine. I think if you get a red moment anytime next week, you're going to be good to just close that. I wouldn't risk it closing for all the premium. I would say if you can get a good chunk of it early on into the week, I would just close it for the majority of it. Again, I'm just super bullish on SoFi, so that's I have a hard time. I did it in my retirement account. I did covered calls, but I did not do them in my standard account. So if I go to retirements, you're gonna see my retirement accounts are super simple. Here's Hims and Oscar. That's all I got, and I have covered calls on all of them. Just gonna quick flip them. So I'm just gonna take them if they sell in May and be done with them and have all cash. Whatever, something's gonna happen. Or my Roth is ONDS and SoFi. So I have SoFi covered calls for $25 for May 15th. In my retirement account, again, I don't pay taxes, so I kind of quick flip these and just let them play. No, I just don't have any cash to do any CSPs. So they're all in shares, right? I have 600 shares, 600 shares. My buying power is only $300. So not a whole lot I can do. So I just need one of these to like get called away before I can do the next wheel. So yeah, I'm just going to let these, whatever happens, happens in my retirement. In my retirement, I can't roll or do anything. So whenever I set a price, I have to be okay with whatever I do. There's no rolling. I'd have to close. Technically, a roll is just closing a position and opening a position. So I'd have to close it for the loss and then open a new one for higher gain, and then that would be the same thing as a roll. And then I do have another joint account as well with some money in it that I manage with a buddy of mine. We have covered calls. Look, I got covered calls on Cypher. Again, am I worried? No, I don't care. IRN, 10% down. No, 313% down. Not worried. I'm selling it for 41. I'm not losing money. I missed out on upside, but it's plenty of gains for me, right? Oscar, I'm currently down. If we get a red week, guys, right, the whole thing changes. If I get a red week, this whole game changes. That's why it's so much time left. It's still 30 days. Could it run higher? Sure. But we also, in those 30 days, usually get a pullback of some sort, right? I have covered calls we did at the end of the day for PGY at 18 that I'm willing to sell. Again, taking the wins. And the reason I'm also in margin, okay? And the reason I'm in margin is because of this, okay? If I pretty much just count on this being called away, then I have a good chunk of my cash back, and then I'm barely in margin. So I'm just basically counting on that one at least being called away. The other ones are still up for debate, but I'm pretty much counting on that one being called away. So, and then I have this joint account here. I think we have cover calls on everything. I think, yep. So we have nice. My hym's got assigned too. Super stoked. Super stoked. If we get green on Monday, I might look to play some cover calls. We'll see. You want to see about doing a covered call on hymns? I would do it fairly safe because hymns can run a lot. But we have Iren, Archer, and SoFi, and we have covered calls on SoFi here, Iren, and on Archer. So we're pretty much just waiting for May 15th as well to figure out if we're going to have a bunch of cash and plenty of cash to buy more things, or if we're going to need to, set covered calls again. And then we have one HIMS leap, January 2027. Basically what we did is we took the premium of, I think, Oscar on a previous play and bought a leap using it. And you can do the same thing, Pat, if you want to grow it faster. Take your premium instead of buying, a few shares of, like you did a CSP on Oscar, take that premium and then buy a leap on Oscar for 2028 or something. So as far as HIMS goes, nice. Whoop whoop. Yeah, that one's gonna swing a bunch until I'm waiting for like the true squeeze of hymns to make him to decide on like closing it. This is just a normal like up, right? This isn't anything out of normal for hymns. Like hymns out of normal is when it does the 20 to 60 within 30 days. So if we can get this 15 to like 50, then we can look at what that kind of looks like. Yeah, exactly. You can take your 100% wins and then flip it, and then, but I don't think there's a whole lot of like volume to close it yet. So if I was to look at hymns, obviously, who knows how it opens on Monday? But what I did was May 15th, and I have the 40 strike, so a 20 delta. That's what I did on Friday in my retirement account. Um, 537. Uh, hymns, and then let me look at the. So what I wanted to look at too. Here's your hymns. It's going to be at the top of the band. Top of the band. 33's there. I like the 40 just because this is where the resistance is on the weekly. You can see our support and now it's resistance. So that's why I like the 40. But hymns can squeeze. This is the part where hymns is a tough one because hymns, you think that you're done and you set one and then it falls back and then takes off, right? Same thing. You think it's done and then it just takes off. So hymns is a tough one to set. You got to make sure you really are willing to do it because it will squeeze past and you're going to say, Colby, I set it for 40 and then it went to 60. It will happen. Hims has done it many times to me. So that's why I do it in my retirement account and then I watch it closer in my my actual brokerage account. I could only do on a 10% up day. New covered call on Hims. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. My buddy just did his on Friday for Hims as well. I think he did 37, which is this kind of like support resistance level he's talking about. But I think I would rather just take the 40 and have a little bit less likelihood of it getting called away. But we'll see. Yeah. Yeah, you on the that's why it's like if we open green at all, get any sort of green, you might see me do some covered calls and just be okay with it because I don't know, it's tough. The war ends, right? We see what the market will do. Well, this is just the start of it. I don't think Trump wants it to not work out, so I think that it eventually ends. But we'll see. There's no knowing. Got to just protect yourself, do your things. I have covered calls on a lot of things, right? Cypher, Iran. I would say majority of my portfolio, besides the SoFi and Hims, I don't. Yeah, I agree. I just don't want it to be super violent, where it's scaring people. Then the whole thing kind of changes, right? When it starts scaring people, then people are scared to get back in. So I just wanted to be calm. Don't gap down now, because then we're gonna get gap down. I don't know. We're gonna see. It's gonna be interesting. I got covered calls. Well, there's money to be made for us. Cipher, Irens, Oscars, PGYs. So this is the part where I'm like, ah, oh, man, I definitely should have just left. Well, Pat, the diamond just happened, so next week is going to be your week to place CSPs if you wanted on it. Anything that got a green diamond last week is it this week. If any pullback happens, are the weeks to buy those ones, right? Because we got the buy alert. Yeah, you can do CSP on sound. So what you can do if you want to go stick more to like the wheel and then outright buying, you'd wait. Sorry, yawning. you'd wait for that weekly diamond to happen. Then you know that momentum is bullish. Okay. So then what you'd want to do is the following week, anytime you get some red on those weekly ones that were like, hey, this is bullish now you can start looking at doing some CSPs on that one because the overall momentum is bullish. You're just trying to buy some, you'll collect some premium, and you can probably be a little bit more aggressive, but I'd wait. Soundhound, and I want to get your opinion, Pat, since you're the one in here. Again, I would wait, right? Wait for that pullback, but low sevens, you can start looking to do it. I imagine there's a gap somewhere. Oh, not too many gaps. But yeah, get somewhere in this low sevens, and then you can look to do. I would do at the money, to be honest. Get to your low sevens and do a 7 CSP because where did it go? 589. Like if you got it at 7 and your premium puts you somewhere in like low mid sixes, you're like not that far off from the bottom it was just at, you know? So that'd be kind of my thought process on it. That's on the 2 hour daily. Like daily's not even crossed here on the Mac. Momentum's still continuing up. Weekly's just starting. So I do want to get your opinion on something. So I'm trying to work on something. I don't have it figured out yet, but the purple diamonds barely come out. So I thought, we could. I think you recommended it, right? The wheel strategy alerts. Is that you? Okay. There's one thing that's tough with the wheel strategy alerts. Okay, I'd have to get rid of the purple diamond alerts. What's up, Sib? I'd have to get rid of the purple diamond alerts inside the Discord. Which again, if you're on a company, you would see your own purple candle. So that's the only thought process for me is like I'm not really hunting for purple candles. I'm just if a company I have has a purple candle, I'm exiting. I don't really need to be alerted. But my thought process is when I'm looking at the wheel strategy, I'm working on something here. Look how many alerts there would be, because there's no way to filter unless I did like, okay, once it placed one CSP, don't alert for like 7 more days or something. So, or do I only do it based on the weekly time frame, which will be far less alerts? Yeah. But if I do the weekly time frame, you'll have less alerts. If you do daily time frame, you'll have a lot of alerts every day. So I'm trying to figure out the balance of that. Typically, the weekly is actually a more safer way to do it. Fewer times, safer way to play, but you don't do them as constant. So, like ONDS, there are no CSPs, but SoFi, I think there is. SoFi here, we didn't have any CSPs here. So this is the part where I'm working on it, but the daily could be a lot, and the weekly is not enough. So, and then I can't really tie this alert to the 700 stocks because that would be, I can only imagine the amount of alerts would go through every single day. So I think it would have to be on specifically like my small watch list as well. What's going on, guys? If you guys have questions or anything, just kind of went over a few things with Pat and Dave were in here earlier. But if you guys have questions, I can go over anything. Super nice day out. I got to mow my lawn. Nothing really crazy to do this week. Okay. I'll make a different list, I think. We'll see. It'll be a slow list we build up. But if too many alerts happen, this happens where they say they can't deliver it because there are too many requests. So I have to scale down some of our watch lists. Maybe. Maybe red. I think it'll open red. I don't know if it'll close red. I don't know. It's all noise to me. I'm good with what we got going on, how we're positioned. Covered calls are set. Not too interested in all the war noise. To be honest, I don't care how it ends, just end it somehow. I mean, like, not in a rude way. I don't want really people to die. I'm not saying that, but like I'm just done talking about it, really. Like, this is the same thing with the whole tariff like thing, where it's like, oh, you're getting 25%. Okay, now it's 10%. Okay, you're getting 50%. Now it's 25%. Back and forth constantly. This is the same thing it feels like. And same thing with the Ukraine and Russia war. It's on, it's off, it's on, it's off. Okay, eventually the market gets tired of it, and we're just like, whatever. Do it. Just hurry up. Figure it out. Yeah, Redwire. Well, I did my first buys, and now I'm waiting. I'll wait for an aggressive like pullback for us to like determine if we're buying more. But yeah, it's gonna be my space play that I'm going with. Where is it? Redwire. Let me go back to my other one. Yeah, I like Redwire. They got to break out of a big downtrend. I think it'll happen this like go around on the run up. Depends on which ones you want to grab, I guess. But in some way, it's either right there at the edge or slightly breaking, or it's still no matter what inside of here. Price right there. So. Yep. It still has a gap fill, so I still think that we could see that gap filled. If you take a look at the daily candles, you still have a gap fill to like 43.50 kind of. So that's not out of the question to fill that gap. I'm not mad if we fill that gap. I have covered calls on IREN, so that's okay. I don't know if Cypher has a gap. Cypher has a gap way down here at 14. I have a hard time believing it'll come back for that right now. Doesn't mean it won't fill it in the future, but I don't think it'll fill that far down. Unless they do some sort of offering and the pullback. I just look at normal candles. So I flip. Heikinashi is what I use for our indicator and everything, but if I need to look for gaps, I just switch to candles to find gaps. So everything has a gap down. SoFi has a gap. Everyone pretty much has a gap. But the question is, right? SoFi had a gap last April, right? When everything gapped up, wherever it may be. Everyone was talking about this gap right here, 19 filling. I think there's a gap somewhere right here in like the 15s. I don't know where it's at, but there was another gap. I thought people were talking about filling at 15. So like gaps can be filled, but doesn't mean it's going to be filled right this second. So I don't think the gap fill for SoFi back to 17 is like, it's not out of the question because the middle of the Bollinger Band is right here. So pull back to 17 can happen, but we'll see. Earnings are close by. A lot of momentum on X, a lot of momentum in institutions, a lot of stuff going for them. So if it pulls back to 17, I'd be really surprised, but it's not, definitely not out of the question. I would probably take advantage of it. That's for sure. So, sorry, burped. Yep, I rented, do the bounce. What's going on? I think everything. I mean, we saw a huge run. I think everything needs to pull back. This will be the pullback of the week, and then it'll be kind of like feeling like the last time to buy before the next run up happens. So overall, bullish. Again, we don't get too many buying opportunities when it comes to weeklies. 1, 2, and then runs up. 1, 2, then runs up. 1 runs up. So like, if this is our first buy and we have one other buy to make, okay, but again, you don't get too many weekly opportunities to be dollar cost averaging into your positions. So I'm just gonna stick with the the back test and what's worked, like SMR's got plenty of upside. Could have pulled back a little, sure, but overall, long-term mindset when I've entered into companies has been the way I go about things. I don't worry about next week. I don't worry about I think about the week, but it doesn't change. I didn't buy the company just for 2 days. What do you mean, Pat? Yeah, so if you are gonna put Sub, if you're gonna complete your position, right, I'm gonna put $10,000 into SoFi and I've already allocated 2,000. So now I only have 8,000 and we get a weekly diamond, right? I have 8,000 left. I'm gonna put 4,000 into that weekly diamond. So what do? The week closes. So next week I'm looking for an entry point to put my 4,000 into it. If you just want to buy based on back testing, it just buys that open on Monday. But as we know, we are expecting somewhat of a pullback. And we see there's a gap fill. So what would I be doing is I'd be waiting to see if we can get some sort of gap fill to that range of the 17s. You have a small gap fill here at 1916, but I would be trying to see if we can get this gap fill to 17. There's a gap fill to 18, and there's a gap fill to 19. So 19, 18, and 17. Weird how that works out. So you can look to be basically buying in that $4,000 and trying to get each of these gaps, 19, 18, and 17. That's how I do it. Yeah, true. Because those weekly buying opportunities are heavily pulled. Like, you don't get weeklies unless the company has a huge pullback. Because if it doesn't have a huge pullback, then it should just be on the daily time frame. Right? But weekly time frame, companies had a pretty big pullback. Like Hims. Hims didn't even get one last April because it stayed above the bull bear line. Above. Right? Daily time frame. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. Thank you. Yeah, but now we got the weekly. So I mean by it's a big pullback. Usually you don't get too many weeklies. Go ahead and buy. You can sit there and wait. Nibius? Yeah, let's take a look. Nibius. So I see like 135 right here. I don't see too many gaps. There's 132. The top of this, the majority of the top of this. So I would say anything really under 140, where the previous high was on this like very tip, but the base of it was 133. So I'd be looking for that kind of pullback. If we look at the Fibonacci levels, okay, golden Fibonacci is 120, but I would probably say there it is. There's your 130. I think you're going to get a smaller pullback on Nibius because of all the hype going around it. So there's the 138 to 129. So looking like that range. I don't imagine it's this big of a pullback. So, which this lines up with this support. This lines up fairly close to the majority of the support. So that 130. It's kind of what I'm seeing. No worries. I appreciate you. I'm trying to see if there's a screener that can be like more shared and better. I do have. It's just kind of I, like they have a. I wish this is what I wish TradingView would do. Let me create a screener. Let that screener actively be my watch list, right? So as it's screening, the indicators going off of what live tickers are in this watch list, like inside the screener. That's what I wish. Whether or not they'll do that in the future, I have no clue. Yeah, Nibius is expensive for my account. I don't really mess with a lot of companies. The 50 is really like my cap. I try to stay under 50 dollars for my account. But you know, I could buy 100 shares, but I'd rather go into these ones that are cheaper. That this one is going to lead the charge and these ones will follow. So that's how I play it. So yeah, be looking right here. I'm assuming the 2 hour gave you sells. Yep. There you go. 2 hours working pretty well with Nibius. Obviously, this says add, but it's pink, so I wouldn't listen to it. But it's working pretty well for it. Let's see what else we got going on. I specifically worked on the 2 hour one, and then the daily and the weekly. Those and the monthly. But monthly again is very slow. I just use it as kind of like a reference. I don't really use it to trade. But yeah, the 2 hour I worked on for quite a bit. It's hard. It's the shorter time frame. So if you can kind of pair it well with the MACD crossing, you'll be solid. Solid. Again, pair a diamond with a cross and you can get better. Did you guys have questions about the flow bots or anything like that? We might be switching the flow bot, but I'm still doing some due diligence on my side. Yeah. So yeah, I was talking to Dave was in here earlier when he was like, I should have waited on Microsoft because he sold I think on Wednesday. And I said, if you're ever questioning like if I should sell or not, make sure you go down to the 2 hour time frame to see. So when he sold on Wednesday, you know, nothing was curling. We're just kind of going up. And now you kind of see the curling happening, you know, and now on the 2 hour you can get out if you wanted to. Right. Please don't. Any other ones? Any questions? Pat, I'm gonna work on potentially having a wheel watch list. And then I'll just add some if people ask. If you want to see my watch list, I have the link in the Chill Bots, I believe it is, or it's in the Chill Trades. Yeah, Chill Trades. At the top in the description, it shows all the stocks on my watch list. So we'll do that. I'll work on that, but I need to figure out how many alerts. It's going to take a second because I don't want too many alerts because I got to fine tune it. I don't want every day on the day that SoFi is going down back to 7 days in a row like CSP, 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 CSP. You know, it's going to be too many alerts. Never know. I try to fine tune it a little bit more. Yep, I can sum up the flow bots. Really, the flow bots are really almost like a stock screener for whales. Again, this might change slightly. It's going to be the same kind of flow bots, but it's going to be a different company. We're going to see. But basically, let's just say you like Celsius, right? And you're like, oh, Celsius, a $30 strike for May 15th, so fairly short. They're buying a call. Ask is to buy. If you have questions, there is a classroom full how to read this stuff, and I'll go over that. So basically, I'm just looking at their option play that they just placed, and it's a $1.3 million order. Okay? So not a small play. So now what you want to do is you want to go to Celsius and go take a look at the chart. and see if you see something like the same thing. Like, do I see bullish activity happening? Okay. So we got some buys. Again, we're below the blue, so we really would be looking at the weekly. Okay. And I don't see a whole lot that's telling me, I want to bet on the upside at this current stage. Right? When's earnings? 23 days from now. So that is 23 days from now. So 7, 14, 21. So like the 12th, 11th. So he's basically betting on earnings, is what that play kind of looks like. So this is how I kind of like look. So I'm not a huge fan of that one, so therefore I wouldn't be interested. But you have some Marvel, you have some silver, you have more Marvel, more Apple, Google, Amazon, Apple, Nvidia, DIA, DIA again, Avgo. So there was one, here's like a wolf, right? I want to go to the Cypher one so you guys can just kind of see what we're looking at before and how we played this one. We did this in the last live stream. You can search tickers also in like the top right corner. You usually can just type in, but it'll pull up more chats, I think. But let's see, search Cypher. Get out of here. There it is. So, for example, this one, Cypher $20 strike for 918. So plenty of time, 5 months, a call, and it's about a $600,000 order. Okay. So we go to Cypher, which as we know, we're fairly bullish on. We had a weekly diamond, but we can go down to like a 2-hour when that was placed. And if we're seeing this MACD crossing and we get these ads, and this was 2 days ago, so then Wednesday or something like that. Thursday. It was Thursday, 2 days ago, so Friday. Yeah. Either way, however it works. If it was this day and we see ad and we're above the blue line and we see it cross and we see, oh, wow, I do see some bullish activity happening on our end based on the indicator. Let me go ahead and follow that whale. He gave you the play, confirm with our indicator that play should play out, and you can join in. Don't have to be crazy, but it's kind of like an option screener for us to kind of find good plays that whales are into. Okay. Does that make sense, Sub? And the other thing while you answer that, inside of the classroom that you have access to, there is a Flowbot talk right here. Okay. I do a video just explaining what I explained, as well as what the dark pool does. Then here's the ticker, strike, expiration date. Here's what it looks like on the option chain. Symbol, call, 30. What does above mean? The size. So it breaks down each thing in here so you guys can understand it, what it's saying. And then as well, if you have a hard time, the Flowbot meaning. So if it says it's a call above, they're paying above the mid price. So they're extremely bullish. They're willing to pay a little bit more to make sure they have these contracts ready to go. Okay. Then you have a call at ask, which is just at the mid price right here at the 7.5. So the bid is 50, the ask is $1. They paid whatever the mid price was. That's bullish. If they have a bid in a call, that is bearish. Okay, that's like selling a covered call. We're not exactly bearish, but we are saying, I don't expect, if you set a covered call on SoFi for 25, you're basically saying, I don't expect it to go over 25. So you are kind of bearish, right? So they're selling calls. And so here's the breakdown basically for you on how that is. So if you saw one and you said, oh, it's above on a put, oh, well, it's bearish. Okay, I should take a look. Let me see if my chart says the same thing, right? So that's all it's for. It's meant to screen. I think it's a great tool for us with our indicator to pair to be able to catch maybe some good option plays. So there's another one. I don't know if you guys have seen bullflow.io, that company. I'm looking into their bot to see if it's better. And then there is Dark Pool. That's the other thing. So Dark Pool doesn't tell you the transaction direction. Okay. So, but they are too big of transactions that if they were in the open market, they would completely move the market in a way that would scare the crap out of people. Okay. Because here's an order on QQQ of $324 million. Not a small transaction, okay? Fairly big transaction. Now, what we would do is you want to look at our indicator again and say, hey, what direction do I think that they are betting that the QQQ goes, right? And we'd go to the QQQ. Do we see that it is, and probably would stick to the daily time frame to kind of play these more, but again, we don't know time frame. It's not an option, so I don't really use these too much unless I do spot a name of ours. Like if I saw a SoFi order of a huge thing, right? But typically they're going to be on the index funds. Not too many like SOXX, some Nvidia, $71 million, 121 million of Amazon. So you can kind of see, like, for me, I would think that these guys are fairly bullish based on our indicators kind of flipping. So I think that these would be more buys, but again, they're more for us to kind of pair with our indicator. Okay. And again, if I can get a better one in here, I'm going to. I'm trying to decide whether or not it is better. Because they don't give me too much detail on their bot. Where's their bot? Discord bot. And I'm like, is this how it comes across? Is there more details? I get they paid $2 million for it, expiration date. So I'm just trying to see if there's more. This is what I mean, guys. Our membership is a hell of a deal, right? This is what it's costs for the Discord bot or to get this information, right? And if I can get it to you guys inside the community to have all the same information, then awesome. Nope, haven't done any on SOXL. I know people who do it, but it's something that it's like I wouldn't be super like aggressive with. So, no, I haven't done them. I typically just stick to my smaller ones because just as fast as it goes up, it goes down. SOXL. Yeah. Like, I would be more like setting covered calls on this right now. Again, bottom of the band. We can go ahead. Again, it's the same thing. It's like when you're above this blue line, follow the daily. When you're below it, you can switch to the weekly Bollinger Band and really see where you can go. But the weekly Bollinger Band, if you take a look, where's the bottom of the band? 28. I'm good. I don't want to play that game right now. No need to take that risk when everything else is at the bottom of their weekly bands like SoFi. Yeah, great move. Mm-hmm. What other things you guys want to go over or suggestions? Future as we build the community higher. I think Damien just put something in the chat. I don't know what he put. ASTS with a bounce potentially to next week. Somebody he follows on X posted that. I think he believes it too. I think he puts a lot into what she says into the market. So, what's going on, Raj? Alrighty. Any more questions, guys? Enjoy the rest of your weekend before for the futures open up again, guys. Last week too happened the same thing. I think, super or maybe the week before, but there's a lot of red in Sunday, and then by Monday morning it wasn't actually that red. So don't put a whole lot into the fear of people that panic. Think about how cheap stocks are, guys. Think about it. They are so cheap. Still at these levels are super cheap, but cheap as far as like what we were buying them for before they all ran up 10, 20% more. Okay. So things will pull back. They always pull back. You can look at everything. They all go up and down constantly. I'm not going to time every up and down. I want to catch the bigger moves. Yeah. Could happen again. They have a meeting, I think, Monday. I'm pretty sure they said they're going to meet now on Monday. Now the whole country's going to get blown up. It's just no one knows what the heck's going on. What's going to happen? Um, let's see. Yeah, typically. Yep. When especially so again, fairly extended, right? But you always got to remember when bands get tight, these moves can happen. But yeah, I still expect them to come back in. Okay. Similar to how Nibius did it, right? It was riding it, got really extended outside of it. Give it some time to chop or do whatever, it'll come back in the band. Right? Hims has done that many times. Iran, I'm sure, has done it. Yeah, usually gets outside the band and it wants to snap back. But they can ride the side of the band for a long time. But again, the majority, this is one of company's early stages, and then they find their like run, okay, and now it's got to consolidate, do what it's gonna do. But yeah, typically outside the band. Again, if you want to see the bigger picture, look at the weekly time frame. Always look at the weekly of how much it can run, right? Top of the band is 64. Top of the band for Nibius, it freaking pops right out of it, right? So that's why we're expecting this pullback back into this band right in here. Super volatile situations. That's why it's a little tough to read right now on, covered calls, not covered calls, because things will blow past covered calls if they have great earnings, volatility clears up. But when you set a covered call, just remember when you set your covered call that you're okay with what you said. I'm going to sell the company for this. Okay. Stop. The dog just tried to jump in my lap. What are you doing? Um, so I don't have covered calls on all my SoFi. I have them in my retirement accounts that I was going over, but I don't have any on my brokerage account. I don't have any covered calls on Hims. I don't have any covered calls on Archer. Um, and I think I have covered calls on the rest. No SMR, nothing on BBAI. I just think a lot of companies are found their bottom, and I don't think we're really going to go back to their bottoms. So now it's just riding some waves, some small waves, but I'm looking to really play the big wave. So, um, I don't, like you guys know, I don't do a whole lot of day trading or anything like that, if any, because one, I can't with Robinhood right now. I got to wait till that like law changes or whatever. Um, on Nibius. Yeah, you might get a trim, but it hasn't done anything yet because this momentum hasn't flipped bearish. So you can see right here, right? See how this flipped to bearish momentum? Then it told you to trim here. It's never going to time the top, okay? It's never going to time the top because this is based off, these diamonds are based off momentum. So in order to get a sell diamond or a trim diamond, you need the momentum to be flipping bearish, right? So we don't want to ever time the top, but we want to get out before it continues further down. And then you can look to get buy more if you wanted to. So same thing, trim, and it carried down a little bit more and goes up. Okay, same thing, buy. Didn't time the top, got the next one, and then carried down. Okay. Does that make sense? We need bearish momentum. You need this to flip red. to actually get the diamond. Now, if you get a diamond, okay, and again, it depends on the company, always depends on the company. So I'm like super bullish on SoFi, right? So if SoFi had a negative 10 or 15% day, and that's what triggered the sell diamond, like let's say tomorrow, whatever reason, okay, tomorrow, and the stock is back to 17, guess what? I'm not selling anything, right? Nibius right here has a big drop down to 147 and it says to sell. You still could sell because there's a lot more it could still fall, right? And you'll be able to probably buy it back for cheaper. It really depends on your situation. If I see a 15% down day and I'm bullish long term on the company, I'm probably not selling the stock because I like the company long term anyway. So I'll wait till the next diamond, the next run up, right? Because I get into any company for long term purposes, not for the short term stuff. Yeah. So there's always things to take into account, right? Also, these are like light pink. I want these like red and orange zones. That's when we really are getting overvalued. This is just starting to get overvalued, but it's still nothing crazy, right? So I want these orange and red zones to really come into play when I want to like sell some stock. Otherwise, here I'm doing covered calls higher because that's higher would be somewhere maybe orange would be, right? Yep. So same thing happens when you get these little green ads and stuff. I mean, this could be CSPs. This is a CSP. It doesn't have to be buys or ads. You can just CSP these neutrals. You don't and covered calls, right? So when things aren't super undervalued, and you're like, "Oh, I want to buy it, but it's not a great buying opportunity because it hasn't become super undervalued where this is like a yellow candle, right? This is like CSPs. Sometimes this can take off, and this is the part, Pat, where we said place a CSP, take your premium, buy some shares, and whatever happens, happens, right? Take a look. One that I am open. I like open. I don't own any open. I probably won't end up buying any, but that's probably one that, as long as rate cuts are on the table, this is probably a one to watch and buy. Huge bull flag. Okay. What I would do for open, okay, is I'm looking for this MACD to actually cross. Okay. Or if we can get a pullback anywhere, closer to the bottom of the band or play CSPs. But this is one that I would keep an eye on. Huge bull flag. So that's one of my top ones to watch going into next week's. Yep. Yeah. Hey, please don't. I'll pick you back up. Jeez Louise. Dog sitting. Got to make extra money when we can, right? Dog sit. I already work from home. Staying home doesn't hurt. Yeah. So if you would consider again, I bought the ASTS light green yellow. Okay, on the daily. I bought this. Okay, because this light green was I don't know, 50% pullback. Okay. Which one were we just on that we were looking at? Nibius, right? Where the heck are you? Nibius. Was this a 50% pullback? It was. There's other ones. I'll give a better example. Let's look for, is it ONDS maybe? No, that one. 15. Still a good chunk pullback. Again, it's going to depend on how much risk you feel like you're taking. If you feel like you're taking a good chunk of risk and there's more downside, then that's when I would be doing more CSPs and not so aggressive on trying to buy the stock, right at the current price, right? Dun, dun, dun. And how I know kind of how much risk I'm taking is this. This 200 weekly. It's a lot of risk. 372. ONDS is 10. Okay. I don't love buying this company. I'm more doing CSPs on this company than I am outright buying this company. The shares I own in my retirement account, ONDS, are CSPs I got assigned. So, but yeah, this 200 weekly really tells you, and you might say, Colby, ONDS is not going back to 372. That it's not going to get there tonight, but this will slowly creep up, and then this will come down, and they will meet somewhere, right? And before you say that won't happen still, SoFi found a way to do it twice. Last April and this April. Back down to that red line. So when it was 32 and everyone's like, Colby, there's no way it's going to go back to 12. I agree. It's not going to go back to 12, but this is going to creep up to 15, and then this falls down, and they may meet somewhere. It's still a big chunky drawdown, so understand your risks. If you can buy companies at this red line, good companies, long-term companies, you can just set it and forget it. Yeah, understand kind of that risk. So ASTS, again, bullish activity, but understand it's not unheard of for this company to come down wherever this may meet it at, and understanding your risks. Obviously, it's held our bull bear line fairly well and followed these Bollinger Bands. But when space becomes not the topic everyone wants to talk about, you could see the pullback, and it could be pretty deep. Okay. So it's always good to understand that. And again, we'll talk about Microsoft. Okay. Anytime Microsoft has been under this red line, it has led to amazing returns. Okay. Under the red line, go ahead. I can switch to the weekly time frame. Okay. There you go. Buy, under the red, buy, under the red, buy it. Okay. Maybe somewhere here in 2015, somewhere down here in 2013, it was under it. So under the red line, long-term buying opportunities. Go ahead and just buy them. Don't try to not get assigned shares, right? You can be a little bit more aggressive on those and just buy them. The one that it should be preset in there. This red line, I made sure that it was a default setting on this indicator. It's the 200 weekly weighted moving average. It should always be set to 1 week. So it'll always display the weekly time, even if you're on the daily time. It'll still keep it the same. So I always know where it is no matter what chart time frame I'm on. Same thing, Navitas. Bullish, but it's 6. When it was here, 7s, and we're getting these buying opportunities, it's not that far down, right? So your risk level isn't crazy. It's a good scale to understand when I'm taking this position. Don't be surprised if it fell down there eventually or along the way or whatever it may be, right? It's good to know where that is. That's all. And if it's below it, get a diamond, dollar cost average, buy into it. I think Intel, there's Intel. For the longest time, Intel, right? Under here. But that's the daily. How many times did we get a buy underneath of it? Hey, you got a few times. Obviously, Intel was like a dying thing until recently. But again, it'll just say under the red can be some great opportunities. Obviously, it depends on how new the company is too. Company's fairly new. Here? Look at it fell. HIMS fell under the red. No one thought it would, and then it would, and then here it is, and now it'll be one of the greatest buying opportunities in HIMS history. Was to buy under the red, and now we're back above it. Government backing them. Yeah, so I like to follow the daily time frame when we are above the bull bear line, and when we're below the bull bear line, I switch to the weekly time frame. Because if I do the daily time frame, see how I'll show you. Okay. If I go to daily on HIMS, how many times would you have bought it when it goes under the blue line? A lot of times, right? Buy. Nothing, no buy alerts yet. Okay, we're under the blue line. Let me switch to the weekly. Okay, now we can look to buy. Oh, Intel. The U.S. government is backing them, invested in them, gave them millions. Basically, with the U.S. giving them millions and backing them by investing into them, they are pretty much going to manipulate the chip world to make sure Intel does very well. Therefore, the U.S. will make tons of money. Therefore, the U.S. has tons of money to put it back into the military, hopefully pay off tons of our debt, whatever it may be. So this is like the first time the government's really invested into the open market. Believe me, if Intel gets that money pulled and the US sells the stock will dump. Just like when Nvidia buys into a company and then also Nvidia says we have pulled our investment out of that company, the stock dumps. Intel will have the same thing and you won't know when that day comes. So you will always have that lingering over your Intel. Yep, just like SoundHound. Same thing. Intel will have the SoundHound moment where it runs up like crazy and then it will fall really hard. And then, but the US helped them get their business back together. So technically, it's still now a good business to be a part of, but you'd want to wait for that big fall to happen, which could be a year or 2 years from now. Who knows? But that's what risk lies with them being invested in it. But I honestly think it's a great way for the US to actually get themselves out of debt is to be able to invest into the open market and generate millions and billions of dollars to pay down some. So I don't know why they weren't doing it a long time ago, but is what it is. They can't beat their own inflation if they don't. Um, so yeah, I like the bull bear line as our determination for whether or not we should focus more on the daily time frame or on the weekly time frame. Okay. And then you can see here on HIMS, right? It was right here last April. I stayed on the daily time frame because it wasn't below the blue. And then here's your daily time frame. Light green. Again, here's your light green. You know, during the tariff scariness, you know, you could have bought or you did the CSP and then added some shares with the CSP premium. And then down here, you can just outright buy some shares. Yep. So you have the year-to-date VWAP as well. So this is a tool I found that a lot of people were actually using to determine whether or not on the short term to be bullish or bearish. Let me go to it. Okay. So we've clearly broke through and now we're bullish back above. We're dropping down bearish, right? Um, so let me go to a few other charts. It's just going to go from the year to date. Anchored volume weighted average price. This is all this is. So it tends to be a good support resistance level to know kind of where it could pull back to, which I think there is a gap fill somewhere at that 2250 mark, to be honest. So it could pull back to 2250. Where is ASTS? I'll just go to ASTS. Let's see. So you can see ASTS volume, the VWAP, year to date VWAP, right? Broke through, yeah, rejected, came up, rejected. Okay. So it tends to be a good support resistance level just based on kind of year to date price action. So nothing particular besides just kind of seeing another support resistance moving average. Don't use it specifically for our strategy, but again, my goal is also to give you guys tons of tools at your fingertips to without having to pay for TradingView because again, you can only use 2 indicators on a free TradingView version. So, and then we have our support resistance boxes. So same thing, support resistance right here. Just if you also think if we have a big run up and you're like, are we about to hit this? Like if you saw ASTS 85 and then all of a sudden got to 94, you might want to watch for any sort of, resistance if it starts rejecting at the 2-hour time frame or anything like that. You start seeing these trims happen as you are at this purple line. then you might want to start thinking about trimming, right? Came up to here, we got our trims, came up here, trims, right? Came up, trim. So you can use it that way as just a guide. Okay. What else you guys got? Anything else? Strategy questions? No worries, Pat. I appreciate you stopping by. Any of you guys, I know some of you are working and everything, or just stop by. I appreciate the support and everything like that. I put the sent an email out for anyone, but we have the that Save 25 going on right now. So if you have any friends or anything that want to give us a try, you can. Okay. Currently, I have the promotion 25% off, and then Save 25 gives you an additional 25% off. So currently would be $37.49. That'll be for the first 6 months, so they can go ahead and give it a try. I think that with the teaching and everything we do, guys, I think they can easily make this back no matter the size of account they have, just to get the education. So I think if anyone wants to give us a try, that they can use this and send them over. I see you typing. Of course. I appreciate your support. Keep up the good work. You're doing great. Of course, guys. Again, if you guys need anything, or like there's a lesson or something, or like you don't understand, somebody was like, "Hey, what does support and resistance mean?" Well, then they send it to me, on the student request, and I can go ahead and make video or anything like that to help the team. So anything that comes up, or maybe even the biggest hurdle that it was for you to learn in the investing world, and there needs to be a lesson taught on it, let me know. I want to help. I don't know what people need if they don't ask. So I appreciate you guys. I'll see you guys later.